Have you ever wondered if there's like a master key to a good life? I mean, a real blueprint, not just for your own personal happiness, but for building stronger families and even creating societies that actually thrive. Well, today we're going to dive into a framework that claims to be exactly that. It's a worldview with roots that go back over 3,000 years, and it offers a pathway to a life and a world that's just brimming with purpose and connection.
Look, at the end of the day, we all want a life that feels like it matters. We want to live in a community that's safe, that's thriving. But how in the world do we get there? It's one of the biggest questions we humans have ever asked. The framework we're exploring today says the answer isn't some new age secret, but a really, really old principle that supposedly powers the entire universe. And that core principle is this: nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, exists all by itself. Think about it. From the tiniest atom, which is held together by this constant dance between protons and electrons, all the way up to huge ecosystems that rely on this incredibly complex web of species. The entire universe is built on reciprocal relationships. This idea of give and take, of interconnectedness, is the engine that drives existence itself.
There's a name for this phenomenon: give and take action. It's that dynamic back and forth interaction between two distinct things that creates all the energy needed for, well, everything. For existence, for action, and for growth. A business literally can't exist without customers. A friendship needs two people. This isn't just some abstract idea. It's the nuts and bolts of how we build our families, our friendships, and our entire economies.
So get this, every single one of these interactions generates three distinct kinds of energy, or forces, that build our world. First, you've got the force of existence. This is the energy that just creates and sustains the relationship itself. Second, there's the force of action. This is the direct result, the immediate output. And third, and this is huge, is the force of multiplication. These are the ripple effects. Let's take a super simple example. You buy a jar of jam. The force of existence is you and the shopkeeper making a deal. The force of action, you get jam, they get money. Simple. But the force of multiplication spreads out everywhere. Your money supports the farmer who grew the berries, the factory worker, the truck driver. Every single interaction unleashes these three world-building forces. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. The quality of that give-and-take action matters a lot. According to this framework, when our interactions are aligned with a benevolent, life-giving design, they generate positive social energy. Think about a doctor giving a patient antibiotics to cure an infection. That interaction promotes life and health. But when an action goes against that design, say someone using cocaine to numb their pain, it generates a destructive energy that actually leads to social decay. It's the same principle of give and take, but the moral intent behind it creates a totally different reality. And that brings us right to the source of this whole framework. In the Bible, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, God gives the very first humans, Adam and Eve, what this worldview calls the three blessings. It's not a command so much as a blueprint. It's presented as three voluntary pathways they can choose to walk down to align with that benevolent design, generate that positive social energy, and ultimately receive God's blessings. So let's break them down. Okay, the first blessing is to be fruitful. Now, this isn't about growing apples. It's about personal growth, maturity, and achieving a kind of self-mastery. And it starts with the most fundamental relationship we all have, the one between our own mind and our own body. Here's the thing. Good intentions are great, but they're not enough. For goodness to actually exist in the world, it can't just stay a nice thought floating around in your head. That idea has to be substantiated. It has to be made real through physical action. The Apostle Paul actually talks about this in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 27, when he says he disciplines his body to keep it under control. It's about that crucial give and take where our mind guides our body to perform good deeds. That's what makes a person fruitful. Now, when we achieve this mind-body unity, it creates some incredibly powerful outcomes. First, the interaction between an idea and the physical world creates rational thought. An engineer might have a brilliant formula in her head, but it's just an idea until she tests it with steel and concrete to build a safe bridge. That feedback loop is the basis for all useful development. It also builds common sense, right? Experience teaches you that fire is hot. And maybe most important of all, it creates trust. Trust is the force that's generated when our words and our actions line up, when we keep our promises. It's the absolute bedrock of social capital, of everything from a friendship to a global economy. So you see, when our mind and body enter into that harmonious give and take, when we become these fruitful individuals, we're not just improving ourselves. We're literally generating those three forces we talked about, the forces for existence, action, and multiplication. And those forces are what allow our cultures to exist in the first place, what sustains all the good within them, and what provides the foundation for all future development. So where do we go from there? The second blessing builds on that individual maturity and moves outward. It's the call to multiply. And this is all about creating a loving, God-centered marital family, which is seen as the core engine of society. The thinking here goes right back to that core principle of reciprocal pairs. Genesis 1:27 tells us, male and female, he created them. So, if the entire universe operates through these complementary pairs, positive and negative, masculine and feminine, then this framework argues that the most complete, perfect reflection of God here on earth isn't an individual person. It's a man and a woman united in a harmonious, committed marriage. As Jesus says in Matthew chapter 19, the two become one flesh. Now, it's not just theology. The source material for this worldview points to a ton of modern research to back this up. For instance, landmark studies by sociologists like Linda Waite at the University of Chicago consistently find that, on average, married couples and their kids do better across the board. They experience better health outcomes, more economic stability, and just higher levels of overall well-being. The data really seems to suggest that a stable family is a powerful incubator for human flourishing. And of course, when a man and woman in a harmonious marriage create children, they're generating those three forces again, but on a huge scale. Their reciprocal love creates new life, and this act generates massive positive social energy for the public good. The family becomes this incredible engine, producing the forces of existence, sustenance, and development that are essential for a healthy, growing culture. And that brings us to the third and final blessing, to have dominion. This is all about our relationship with the world around us. It's about our responsibility to take creation and our own talents and use them to build and create value for our communities. Now, I know that word dominion can sound a little harsh to our modern ears, but in this framework, it's not about domination or exploitation at all. It's interpreted as stewardship. It's a sacred trust to act as a responsible, loving caretaker of creation. This idea provides a crucial moral foundation for all our economic and creative work. The goal is to enhance the community, not just to extract value for ourselves. You know, the parable of the talents from Matthew chapter 25 illustrates this perfectly. The servants who took what they were given and invested it to create more were rewarded. The one who just buried his talent was condemned. The message is pretty clear. We're meant to develop our skills, to be creative, and to serve others. When we do that, we're actually channeling God's own creative nature. We're acting like children of God. So when we take this stuff of creation and build something useful with it, whether that's starting an ethical business, inventing a new technology, or creating beautiful art, we are once again entering into a harmonious give and take. And that interaction generates those same three essential forces for our communities: the energy for their existence, their sustenance, and their future development. Okay, let's pull all of this together for a second. What we have here are three interconnected pathways: master yourself, build a strong family, and then contribute creatively to the world. Now, the source material argues that this ancient framework isn't just some dusty old idea, it's actually being validated by modern, data-driven research. For example, take the work of the famous Harvard economist Raj Chetty. His research helped identify what many now call the success sequence. He found that in Western societies, people who follow a certain path first finish their education, second get a full-time job, third get married, and only then have children have an overwhelmingly high chance of avoiding poverty. It's a modern statistical echo of the ancient wisdom laid out in the three blessings. What proponents say makes this framework so powerful is just how holistic it is. It doesn't put life into little boxes. It doesn't separate your personal character from your family life or your family life from your work. It weaves everything together: personal virtue, family commitment, and responsible creativity into one coherent, all-encompassing ideal for a flourishing life. And this leads to a pretty bold claim. The argument is that when people voluntarily choose to aim for this high standard, when they try to be the best individuals they can be, build the best families they can, and use their talents to ethically improve their communities, this lifestyle generates more positive social energy than any other philosophical theory out there. It's presented as the highest standard humans can aim for, an unbeatable worldview for building a good society. So, that leaves us with a really big question to think about. In a world that so often feels like it's fracturing, a world filled with division and uncertainty, could it be that this ancient blueprint for life, one that's centered on personal responsibility, strong families, and creative service, is actually more relevant and more desperately needed than ever before?